Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Eleanor and today I want to talk about Midnight Sun by Stephenie Meyer. This is a very recently published book by Stephenie Meyer and it is Twilight retold from Edward Cullen's perspective. So in the original Twilight book you're following Bella Swan, who's a human, as she falls in love with Edward the vampire. This is the same book, the same story, nothing's different, but it's from Edward's perspective. I initially wasn't going to pick this up because earlier this year I reread Twilight as part of my reliving my teen vampire obsession. I'll leave that video linked below if you're interested in watching those videos. And although I did have fun reading Twilight, I kind of felt like I was over that phase of my life. Twilight was a huge part of my life in my early teens, but I'll admit that the hype did get to me. A lot of people I watch here on BookTube were reading it and enjoying it or had critical things to say that intrigued me, and I thought, why not just cave, given I very rarely buy such new release books. So I did. It's 750 pages long, took me ages to read it. The first half of me reading this book I actually did during a reading vlog. It's my first ever reading vlog, so I'll leave that video linked below as well if you're interested. I'd love some feedback about how I did that vlog. But obviously I didn't finish the book in one day because I'm not that fast at reading. This is going to get really annoying to hold up, actually. Is there somewhere I can put this? Yeah, we'll leave it there because I can't be bothered holding it. It's very heavy. I actually really enjoyed this. I do understand there's a lot of criticism about the book, but as a kind of fan and in such a nostalgic sense, overall I did enjoy the story. But I would caution you, unless you're a big fan of Twilight and are really interested in reading it again, there isn't too much new here that if you're just a casual reader of the Twilight saga, I wouldn't bother. I think this only really appeals to diehard fans. This is going to be a spoiler-filled review. So from now on, if you've not read the book and you're interested in reading the book, I would stop this video and come back after you read it. But otherwise, if you're not worried about being spoiled, continue on. I really enjoyed reading this from Edward's perspective. It gave you so much more impact. I feel like this story was so much more dramatic and impactful from Edward's perspective because you get the full expanse of what Bella and Edward are risking. You have the vampire's perspective and it's like, this will ruin our lives. He has lots of issues with his families, his brothers and sisters, and some of them support him and some of them, like Rosalie, don't. And it was really brilliant to see the family dynamic more. You got to see more about those characters, understand more about their thoughts and motivations, because Edward can read minds. So you're not just getting Edward's perspective of Twilight, you're getting Edward and everyone's mind he can read in his close vicinity. So it was interesting to see the thoughts about like Jessica and Angela and Eric and Mike. It's great to see more in depth about how they are as people. I also believe that obviously this was probably a really hard book to write for Stephenie Meyer because she's come so much in her writing. She's probably developed and changed a lot, but she was really heavily restricted in what she could put in Midnight Sun because she has to stick to the storyline and the exact dialogue that was in Twilight. I haven't sat and compared them word for word, but maybe there's some places where there's a wee time skip and there's a bit of paraphrasing, but it's exactly the same. So she's working within the confines of that story already, and I can imagine that being quite restrictive and quite difficult. So there's a lot of instances where you find out a lot more information on Edward's side, and it's like, why wasn't that information known in Twilight? The fact that they all know, like the Cullens all know and see Alice from like really, really early on in the book and really, really early on in Edward interacting with Bella. They see Edward and Bella together and they see Bella as a vampire, and it was interesting to see more about Alice's powers, but like, is the only reason that Edward ended up with Bella because Alice foresaw it and then he projects those future feelings on her in the present? Because obviously it is so insta love. But maybe I'm reading too much into it. I did like seeing all these instances of time that Edward was away from Bella. I loved seeing what he was doing. But also his stalking of Bella and watching her sleep is way more creepy from his point of view. I'll say that. They don't get away with that at all. Yeah, I loved seeing how the fight with James concludes at the end of the novel. It's great seeing that from Edward's perspective and seeing him, Edward, Emmett, and Carlisle working together to neutralise that threat. But again, I just feel like there could have been so much more to this story. But obviously, Stephenie Meyer was so constricted with what had already happened, she can't change it. She's already basically writing fan fiction of her own story. She can't change what's already happened unless she was writing an alternative history, which I feel like maybe would have been a bit more fun. Like Midnight Sun could have been Twilight from Edward's perspective, but she could have rewritten it and changed it, because there were so many interesting things that you found out from Edward's perspective that it doesn't make sense that wasn't in Twilight. And the only thing I can think of is the fact that the writer Stephenie Meyer has thought this when she was writing that. Like, she didn't have all these thoughts in her head when she was writing Twilight, so she's just making these things up and slotting them in, and it's just in Edward's thoughts and he never vocalises any of these things. Yeah, it just highlights insta-love and things like that, and that maybe the relationship is a bit fast-paced, and I don't know. I still enjoyed it. I seem like I'm really criticising it, but I still enjoyed it. I still had fun. It was very nostalgic, but it's not the be-all end-all kind of story. And yeah, I think I'm kind of done with Twilight. I did say in my reading vlog that I would be interested if Stephenie Meyer did this again with the rest of the series, just because one of the books, I can't remember if it's Eclipse or New Moon, where Edward's gone for the whole book, but I think he would just be like very down and like sad and angry. It's not going to be that interesting. So I think I'm kind of done with Twilight after reading this. It was fun, but nah. Overall, I think my favourite part about this book was learning more about the Cullens. So you see more of Rosalie's motivations. You see that Emmett is just a really, really nice guy and a really good brother to Edward, and you learn more about how Alice's power works. But my favourite thing, because Jasper was always kind of like my favourite and like the most intriguing character, you find out more about him and how his empathy works. And in this end section where they're chasing down like James and they're trying to work out the aftermath and how he manipulates everyone's emotions, I just found that really, really clever, and I loved that integration with him and his backstory of being in the military and part of the vampire armies. I just thought it was really clever how Stephenie Meyer has manipulated his gift to have that kind of advantage, because you wouldn't normally think that empathy could lend itself to that, but I find it really interesting. And the biggest gripe I have, not really the biggest gripe, but at the very end of the book, is it Alice, Jasper, Emmett, Bella and Edward are in the car. Bella's hurt. They're trying to get to a hospital to get Bella seen to, but they're obviously, James has just attacked her. Edward's just removed the venom, and they obviously need to set the scene for Bella having a convincing accident so that there's a cover story. This scene was very clever, but also very strange, and it just highlights how weird and pointless certain aspects of all the books have been, because obviously Alice is having these thoughts and visions about different ways the future could go, and Edward's reading her mind and seeing it too, so it's that kind of like Edward's got that gift as well, but he's just kind of reading Alice's mind. So Alice is making constant decisions about, right, we're going to the hotel in this way, we'll need to go on this floor to smash this window to this, oh wait, no, that didn't work out, let me backtrack, let me imagine me going at this time and doing it this way. So she sees like 20 different possible futures until she finds an outcome that she's happy with, and then they all go and do it. So if you think about that being the way her power works through the whole Twilight saga, it seems like it's taking away a lot of the free will of the characters. Like, if Alice can see all these possible futures and she tells everyone around her that, oh, we need to do it this way and this way and this way to see this final outcome, it just, I don't know, it was really clever and really well written, and it was a really interesting scene to read, but for me it's just made me have more thoughts about the wider implications of a gift like that and how it was utilised within the story. And I'm definitely reading far too into this, but I just thought it was very easy. You know, nothing ever really seems to be a big issue. There's always a happily ever after, but I suppose it is a young adult supernatural romance, so how deep are you supposed to get? But yeah, overall that's my thoughts on Midnight Sun by Stephenie Meyer. Let me know if you've read it, or if you even plan to read it. Maybe this was too critical of me and you're not interested, but yeah, this was a huge part of my early teen life, and I think I'm closing the door. That's it dealt with. I did enjoy it. It was fun and nostalgic, but I think I'm done. I'm ready to move on. So yeah, thank you for watching this review, and please be sure to leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments, and I'll see you all later. Bye.